cold and distant. Inside the ship, the hum of machinery filled the silence. The crew had been on a routine mission, exploration, and supply delivery in a faraway sector. Nothing extraordinary was expected. That belief would soon be shattered. Captain Marcus Hale sat in the command chair, his eyes glued to the blinking lights of the navigation console. "All systems normal," he said, though the tension in his voice betrayed him. The crew tried to appear calm, but the quiet anxiety was like a thick fog that hung over the ship. Lieutenant Sarah Voss, the communications officer, was monitoring incoming signals. "Captain," she said, her brow furrowed, "we're picking up a distress signal. It's faint, but definitely human." Marcus leaned forward. "Distress signal? From where?" Sarah tapped the screen. "Sector Theta 9. That's very far off. Almost uncharted." The crew exchanged nervous glances. The ship's mission was important, but they were far from allies, far from any help. Yet, the human instinct to respond to a call for help was strong. "Put it through," Marcus ordered. The faint crackle of static filled the room, followed by a voice barely audible over the noise. "SOS. SOS. This is the freighter Artemis. We're under attack. Need immediate assistance." The voice was panicked, trembling, the fear unmistakable. Marcus stood. "Plot a course. We're going to help them." The crew sprang into action. Engines roared to life, and the Artemis veered toward the distant sector. There was urgency in every movement, a silent promise that they would not fail those in need. Yet, no one noticed the small, blinking light on the long-range scanner, a signal traveling at impossible speed, a beacon that was not meant for humans. Far beyond the sensor's normal range, something stirred. A fleet, silent, deadly, watching. As the Artemis cut through the void, the crew felt a strange tension, as if the darkness itself had become heavy. Sarah's fingers hovered over the console, scanning every signal. "Captain, I'm not sure, but there's something else. Something not human." Marcus frowned. "Explain." "I don't know," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "It's too fast, and it's heading toward the SOS source before we can even get there." Marcus's heart sank. Could it be another human ship? Sarah shook her head. "No. The energy's signature. It's unlike anything we've seen. This is alien." The word hung in the air like a sudden chill. Aliens. That a word that sent shivers down the spine of every human in history stories. Aliens that responded to an SOS were not supposed to be friendly. Meanwhile, in the dark reaches of space, the Deathworlders fleet moved. Massive ships, jagged and black, sliced through the void like predators. They had received the SOS, yes, but not as a call for help. To them, it was a signal, an invitation, a chance to hunt. Back on the Artemis, the crew was unaware. They were focused entirely on reaching the Artemis, hoping to rescue fellow humans. Little did they know, the hand of fate had shifted. What they thought would be a mission of salvation was about to become a nightmare. Hours passed. The distance closed slowly, the crew glued to the view screens, scanning for signs of the freighter. Suddenly, the sensors lit up with a massive reading. "Captain," Sarah whispered, "we have company." Marcus frowned, leaning over her shoulder. "Show me." On the screen, hundreds of dark silhouettes appeared, forming a perfect formation in the distance. Their design was angular, alien, and menacing. What are those?" muttered Ensign Lee, the youngest crew member, her voice barely audible. "They're ships," Marcus said slowly, his jaw tight, "and they're heading straight for the SOS signal." Panic rippled through the crew. "Are they friendly?" Lee asked. "No," Marcus said, his voice cold and certain. "They are not." The Deathworlders were closer now. Their communications array opened a channel, and a voice boomed through the Artemis' speakers. "You call, we respond. Prepare." Sarah's hands trembled as she tried to reply. They know we're here?" "They always know," Marcus muttered grimly. "Hold positions. Keep shields ready. And pray they don't decide to test us first." The Artemis shuddered as the Deathworlders' fleet approached. Their formation was precise, calculated, almost too fast to track. The human crew scrambled, but it was like trying to escape a storm in a small boat. Every move was anticipated. In the command room, the tension was unbearable. Every crew member felt it, the weight of knowing they were outmatched, outgunned, and completely alone. Even Captain Marcus, a veteran of countless missions, felt a knot of fear tighten in his stomach. Sarah scanned the incoming data again. "Captain, I think they're scanning us." Marcus froze. "Scanning? For what?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But they know our ship, our layout, everything." A heavy silence fell over the room. The crew realized the truth. They were not rescuers anymore. They were the prey. And the Deathworlders were patient predators. The minutes dragged. Every blip on the screen made the crew flinch. The Artemis's weapons were armed, but they were toys against the fleet outside. Even if they fought bravely, the odds were hopeless. Suddenly, the Erebus appeared on the sensors, damaged, smoke trailing from its hull. Marcus cursed under his breath. "We're too late to help them directly," he muttered. Ensign Lee's eyes were wide. "Then what do we do?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "We survive. That's all we can do. We keep moving. We find a way. But we do not give up." The Deathworlders did not attack immediately. Instead, they circled, sending waves of scanning energy across the Artemis. Every shield flickered. Every system was tested. The crew felt helpless, trapped in a cage of cold, unfeeling power. Hours felt like days. Then, Marcus noticed something. A pattern. The Deathworlders were not chaotic. They were precise, almost communicative. Sarah's eyes widened as she noticed the same. "Captain, they're reading our reactions. Every decision we make, they adjust instantly." Marcus nodded grimly. "They're studying us like we're an experiment. Every choice, every move, they know before we do." The crew sat in tense silence, knowing that any sudden movement could be their last. Fear gripped their hearts, but Marcus forced himself to think. Strategy, survival, that was all that mattered now. And then it happened. The first strike, a warning shot. Not lethal, but precise. It hit the hull near the engine, shaking the ship violently. Alarms blared. The crew was thrown to the floor. Marcus shouted, "Damage report." "Minor for now," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the fear. "But it's a warning." Marcus clenched his fists. "They're telling us they can destroy us anytime. And they're not bluffing." The crew worked feverishly to stabilize the ship. Every second was a fight for survival. Every beep, every flicker on the screen was a reminder. They had called for help, and instead, they had summoned death. As the Artemis limped forward, weaving through the void, Marcus looked out the viewport. The Deathworlders' fleet stretched across the darkness, like a living wall. Their shadows moved with silent menace, a reminder that the universe was not as safe as humans believed. Captain Marcus Hale knew one thing clearly. The SOS that had seemed like hope had become a turning point, and nothing would ever be the same. The crew braced. The Artemis had entered. No turning back. The void was silent again, but the silence carried a heavy weight. The Artemis floated like a small speck against the black canvas of space, engines humming nervously, as if the ship itself sensed the approaching danger. The Deathworlders' fleet had not attacked fully yet, but their presence was suffocating. Inside the command room, the crew worked in tense unison. Every console beep, every flicker on the sensors made hearts pound faster. Captain Marcus Hale stood with his hands pressed against the command chair, his eyes fixed on the view screen. Hundreds of alien ships loomed ahead, moving in deadly precision. Their silhouettes were jagged, like shards of black glass. No human ship had ever looked this menacing. Sarah Voss, the communications officer, stared at the data streams in disbelief. "Captain, their energy patterns, they're reading our shields, our weapons, even our internal systems. They know everything about the Artemis." Marcus nodded grimly. "That's exactly what I feared. They're not mindless. They're hunters, and they're studying us." Lieutenant Daniels, the tactical officer, clenched his fists. "So we're trapped. There's no way we can fight them." Marcus turned sharply. "There's always a way. We just need to survive long enough to find it. Right now, we need to focus on staying alive." The Deathworlders made their first move, not with weapons, but with a terrifying display of coordination. The fleet split into smaller groups, surrounding the Artemis from every direction. On the screens, the alien ship seemed almost alive, shifting and sliding into positions faster than human eyes could follow. Ensign Lee, the youngest crew member, swallowed hard. Captain, they're surrounding us. It's like they knew exactly where we'd be. Marcus's jaw tightened. Exactly. They did. Every step we take, every maneuver, they anticipated. Stay calm. Follow orders. The ship shuddered as the Deathworlders deployed energy probes around them. These probes were small, black spheres that floated silently in space. They scanned the Artemis from every angle, sending streams of data back to the alien fleet. Sarah's fingers flew over the console, trying to block their scans, to confuse the readings. Captain, we can't hide from them. They're too advanced, too fast. Marcus gritted his teeth. Then we make them work for it. We don't give up without a fight. The Artemis executed a sudden maneuver, spinning sharply through the void. Alarm screamed as the ship's hull groaned under the strain. The Deathworlders adjusted instantly, mirroring every move. It was as if the alien ships could see through the very eyes of the human crew. Daniel slammed his fist on the console. They're perfect. There's no mistake in their formation. Marcus's gaze was unflinching, which means they're not just hunters. They're strategists, and they don't just want to kill us. They want to understand us first. Outside the viewport, the black ships shimmered with energy fields that looked almost organic. Tentacle-like appendages of light flickered from their hulls, probing, scanning, testing. The crew could feel their presence like a cold shadow across their souls. Suddenly, the Artemis shook violently. A warning beam struck the hull, not enough to destroy it, but precise enough to show power. Alarms blared, shaking every crew member in their seats. Damage report. Marcus shouted. Sarah's voice was calm but tight. Minor hull breach near the engine port. Nothing critical yet. Daniels muttered under his breath. Minor? That's a warning shot. They could destroy us any time. Marcus nodded. Exactly. They're showing us what they can do. That's the panic moment. They want us scared. Keep your minds clear. The crew worked feverishly, repairing minor damages, checking every system. The tension was unbearable. Sweat dripped down foreheads. Hands shook as they gripped consoles. Every beep, every flicker made their hearts skip. Then, a new signal appeared on the sensor grid. It was faint, almost lost among the overwhelming presence of the Deathworlders, but it was unmistakable. The Erebus. Captain, the freighter. Ensign Lee pointed at the screen. It's still alive. Marcus leaned in, relief mixed with worry. Not for long, if we don't act fast. Their fleet is circling the Erebus too. The crew exchanged glances. They had called this mission an act of mercy, a chance to help fellow humans. Now, the situation was spiraling into a nightmare. What should have been a rescue operation had turned into a deadly trap. Sarah tried to send a communication to the Erebus. This is Captain Marcus Hale of the Artemis. Hold position. Stay calm. We're coming. The channel went dead. The Deathworlders had jammed all communications. The crew realized a horrifying truth. Not only were they being hunted, but they were also isolated. Completely alone. Captain, they blocked all transmissions, Sarah said, her voice shaking. We can't talk to them. We can't call for help. Marcus clenched his fists, his mind racing. Then we survive, and we protect what we can. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Shields up, weapons ready. Every second counts. Outside, the Deathworlders made another move. Smaller ships detached from the main fleet, closing in on the Artemis like circling predators. The crew could see the energy spikes on their hulls, testing for weaknesses. Every probe, every movement sent shivers down their spines. Ensign Lee whispered, almost to herself, They're reading us, reading everything. Marcus didn't answer. He couldn't afford to panic. Every second of hesitation could mean death. The crew worked like a single organism, each member aware of their role. The human ship was small, fragile, but agile. They darted, twisted, and spun through the void, trying to keep the Deathworlders at bay. But every move was anticipated. Every escape attempted blocked before it could succeed. Hours passed like days. The Artemis's hull shuddered under minor impacts. The crew's nerves frayed. Even the bravest stared in silent fear at the looming black ships. Every heartbeat was measured, every breath calculated. Then, something unexpected happened. A Deathworlder ship broke formation, not to attack, but to observe. It hovered near the Artemis, energy tendrils probing gently, almost curiously. Sarah gasped, "Captain, they're studying us, not just attacking." Marcus's eyes narrowed, which means they're learning. Every move we make, they're recording. They want to understand us before they decide our fate. Daniels muttered, "It's like being hunted by a predator that's smarter than any human. And it's patient." The crew realized something terrifying. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were part of an experiment. Every decision, every reaction, every fear was being observed, cataloged, and analyzed. Suddenly, the Deathworlders deployed small drones. Unlike the probes, these were fast, agile, and armed with energy disruptors. They swarmed the Artemis, testing shields, seeking weak points. Shield at maximum. Marcus shouted, gripping the chair as the ship shook violently. All weapons ready. Target anything that comes too close. Sarah's hands flew over controls. They're fast. Faster than anything we've faced. The Artemis dodged, spun, and fired. But the drone seemed to anticipate every move. Each impact on the hull sent vibrations through the ship. Panic began to rise among the crew. Think. Move strategically. We survive by staying one step ahead, even if it's only for a moment. Hours blurred. Systems strained. The Artemis was battered, but still alive. The Deathworlders maintained their presence, circling, testing, and observing. It was a game of patience, and humans were at a disadvantage. Then, just as despair began to set in, Sarah noticed something, a pattern in the Deathworlders' movement. "Captain, look, their formation isn't random. They respond to our reactions, but there's a rhythm, a pattern." Marcus leaned over the console. "A pattern? That could be an advantage, if we can predict their moves." The thought ignited a spark of hope among the crew. Perhaps survival was possible. Perhaps the Artemis could escape this nightmare. But one thing was clear. The first contact panic was only the beginning. The Deathworlders were patient, intelligent, and deadly, and the crew had no idea what they would do next. The void was no longer just empty space. It had become a battlefield of wits, courage, and survival. And the humans had just realized they were the prey, and the hunter had only just begun to play. The Artemis shuddered again. Outside, the Deathworlders' fleet pulsed like a living shadow. Inside, the crew braced themselves for what was coming next. The universe had changed for them in a single moment, and there was no turning back. The first contact panic had begun. It would test every human on board, every ounce of courage, every skill, and every hope they had left. The Artemis drifted through the void, battered but alive. Its hull bore the marks of the Deathworlders' precision attacks, small scars that whispered warnings of power far beyond human comprehension. Captain Marcus Hale gripped the command chair as alarms continued to flare, each one a reminder of how thin the line between survival and destruction had become. The crew moved like a machine under pressure, every member aware that hesitation could mean death. Yet the weight of the alien fleet pressing down on them was almost unbearable. Every decision Marcus made seemed immediately countered, every maneuver anticipated. It was as though the fleet could read their minds. Sarah Voss, monitoring communications and sensor data, spoke in a low voice, almost a whisper. "Captain, they're adapting to everything we do. Every maneuver we try, they block it." Marcus tightened his jaw. "Then we try something they won't expect. Something reckless." Lieutenant Daniels raised an eyebrow. "Reckless? Captain, we're already at maximum stress on engines. One wrong move, and we could tear ourselves apart." Marcus didn't flinch. "Then we make the wrong move on purpose. Sometimes unpredictability is the only chance we have." The crew exchanged tense glances. They trusted Marcus, but this was a gamble against an enemy that seemed impossible to outsmart. Outside, the Deathworlders' black ships moved like shadows, stretching across the void. Their energy probes swirled around the Artemis, scanning, probing, testing. And then, smaller drones zipped through the space around the human ship, agile and fast, anticipating every move. Marcus turned to the tactical screen. Prepare for the maneuver. We're going to split our energy signature. Sarah's eyes widened. Split the energy signature? Captain, that's dangerous. It could fry our systems. Marcus nodded. I know, but it's the only way to confuse them. We create a false trail, make them think we're in one direction while we escape in another. The crew moved swiftly. The Artemis's engines flared as they initiated the maneuver. Energy fields shimmered, scattering across the ship's hull. The Deathworlders paused, their massive fleet hesitating as a sudden disruption confused their sensors. Now! Marcus shouted. The ship twisted sharply, accelerating into an uncharted vector, leaving the alien fleet momentarily unsure of their location. For a brief moment, hope surged through the crew. The Artemis darted like a shadow, weaving through the void, slipping past the immediate threat. But it was temporary. The Deathworlders were too advanced, too intelligent, and their patience was terrifying. Daniels muttered, "They're learning. They'll adapt again." Marcus's eyes didn't leave the viewport. Then we stay ahead, always unpredictable, always moving. Hours turned into a tense blur. The Artemis dodged, weaved, and outmaneuvered drones and energy beams. Each moment was a test of nerve. Every blip on the sensors could mean life, or instant death. The crew worked in perfect unison, but even the best humans could not keep up with alien calculation indefinitely. And then the Deathworlders made a new move. A massive energy wave pulsed outward from one of the larger ships, stretching across the void like a predator's net. The Artemis shook violently, systems flashing warnings. Sarah's voice trembled. "Captain, it's a trap. They're closing in faster than we can react." Marcus took a deep breath. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. All engines push to maximum output. We may not survive, but we fight. The ship veered sharply, twisting in impossible angles. The energy wave grazed the hull, ripping small panels from the surface. Sparks flew across the command room. Crew members stumbled, but they held their stations. Ensign Lee's hands shook as she managed the auxiliary thrusters. "Captain, it's too fast. We can't outrun them." Marcus's gaze hardened. "Then we outsmart them. Think, move, act before they predict." Sarah's fingers danced over the console. She activated a series of signal decoys, small drones programmed to mimic the Artemis's energy signature. "They won't know which one is real," she said, hope flickering in her voice. Outside, the decoys burst into life. The Deathworlders hesitated, scanning each one. For a moment, the alien fleet's precision faltered. "That's it," Marcus shouted. "We use the confusion to slip through. All power to forward engines. Evasive vector Omega." The ship surged forward, weaving through the void like a dart. For seconds, the human crew felt the sweet taste of hope. The alien fleet was momentarily misled, chasing shadows while the Artemis slipped past their immediate grasp. But the reprieve was brief. The Deathworlders adapted again, faster than ever. New drones emerged, more precise, attacking the hull with energy disruptors designed to destabilize shields. The ship shuddered violently. Systems failed one by one, and alarms screamed. Marcus's knuckles turned white as he gripped the command chair. "Hold together, everyone. We're not done yet." Lieutenant Daniels spotted something on the tactical display. "Captain, there's a narrow corridor near the asteroid field. We might be able to use it for cover, but it's risky. One miscalculation, and we collide with the asteroids." Marcus nodded. "Then we take the risk. It's either that or be surrounded and destroyed." The Artemis twisted sharply, heading toward the jagged asteroids. The Deathworlders followed cautiously, their massive fleet too large to maneuver easily through the debris. For a fleeting moment, the human ship had the advantage. Sarah's hands flew over the console, calculating trajectories. "If we hit the right angle, we can use the asteroids as shields." They won't be able to target us directly. The ship danced among the rocks, twisting through the hull. Sparks flew, panels cracked, but the Artemis survived. Outside, the Deathworlders hesitated. They were clever, but not reckless. The asteroid field slowed them down, giving humans a chance to escape. But Marcus knew it wasn't enough. This is only temporary. We need a plan, something unexpected. We can't just run forever. Hours dragged on. The crew was exhausted, nerves fraying. But then a small blip appeared on the sensor grid, a faint signal, weak but unmistakable. "The Erebus," Sarah whispered. "They're still alive. They're broadcasting something." Marcus leaned over the console. "Can we reach them?" Sarah shook her head. "Not directly. The Deathworlders are blocking all channels. But maybe we can use a relay. It's risky, but it might work." Daniels muttered, "Risky is all we have left." Marcus nodded. "Then we do it. Prepare the relay. We make contact, and we find a way to survive together." The crew worked feverishly, coordinating movements, recalculating energy outputs, and preparing the ship for another desperate maneuver. Every second counted. The Deathworlders were relentless, adapting to every tactic. But the humans refused to give up, and in the midst of chaos, hope flickered. The Artemis was battered, but alive. Its crew was scared but determined. They had faced impossible odds, outsmarted an alien fleet temporarily, and survived. Yet Captain Marcus knew the truth. This was only the beginning. The Deathworlders were patient, intelligent, and deadly. The next move could end them all, or reveal a chance they hadn't yet imagined. As the ship twisted through the void, narrowly avoiding collisions with asteroids, Marcus glanced at the crew. Sweat dripped down their faces, hearts pounding. Yet there was resolve in their eyes. "Hold on," he said quietly. "We've made it this far, and we're not done yet. Keep moving, keep thinking, and survive." Outside, the Deathworlders' fleet adjusted again. Their energy pulses shimmered like dark fire across the void. They were watching, learning, waiting. And the humans? They were ready to fight, or run, or do whatever it took to live. The desperate maneuvers had bought them time, but the next turn could decide everything. The void was no longer empty. It had become a battlefield of wits, courage, and sheer determination. And the crew of the Artemis had only begun to test the limits of human ingenuity against a predator that seemed unstoppable. The battle was far from over. The desperate maneuvers had kept them alive. But survival would demand even more courage, even more skill, and even more daring than anyone aboard the Artemis had ever imagined. The unexpected turning point had become a relentless chase. And the first contact panic was evolving into a fight that could define the fate of every human in the sector. The void of space seemed to pulse with silent intent. The Artemis floated like a fragile spark amid the endless darkness, its hull battered, its engines straining, but still alive. Captain Marcus Hale studied the view screen in grim concentration. The Deathworlders' fleet had stopped the direct assault, for now, but that calmness brought a more terrifying realization. "They're thinking," Marcus said, voice low. "They're not attacking randomly anymore. They're planning." Sarah Voss, still monitoring sensors, felt a chill run down her spine. "Captain, their movements are coordinated now. It's almost mathematical. Every ship has a purpose. They're surrounding us, yes, but not just to trap us. It's more strategic." Marcus nodded. "Every predator has a method, and this one has patience." Lieutenant Daniels muttered, "Patience is terrifying when the predator can see everything before you do." Outside, the Deathworlders shifted into a new formation. Massive ships stretched across the void like a web, each one linked to the next by faint streams of energy that pulsed rhythmically. The Artemis's sensors struggled to map the full pattern. Sarah pointed at the tactical display. "Captain, it's like they're reading our minds. Every move we make, they anticipate, then adjust their positions almost instantly. It's just like they're alive." Marcus studied the patterns carefully. Not a live collective. One mind controlling many. That explains their precision and adaptation. And if we want to survive, we need to find a gap in that mind. Daniels frowned. "Gap? In their mind? You mean they could have a weakness?" Marcus' eyes narrowed. We have to find it, because if we don't, there's no escape. The fleet's strategy became painfully clear. They weren't attacking outright. Instead, they were pushing the humans toward a narrow sector, a confined space filled with uncharted debris fields and gravitational anomalies. The Artemis's sensors were screaming warnings, but every route out was covered by Deathworlders ships, every escape vector blocked by drones. Sarah's voice trembled slightly. Captain, it's a trap. They're hurting us, not destroying us. They want to corner us first, study us, and then decide. Marcus' jaw tightened. Then we need to move carefully. Every maneuver must be deliberate. They're forcing us into their strategy, but maybe we can turn it against them. He turned to crew. Listen carefully. They think they control the battlefield. They think they predicted every move. But humans, we adapt. We improvise. We survive where logic fails. We need to find a way to exploit their pattern. The Artemis moved cautiously, its thrusters flaring intermittently. Each movement was calculated to avoid revealing too much about their intentions. But the Deathworlders were relentless. Drones zipped around, probing the hull with energy pulses that caused lights to flicker and alarms to scream. Then Sarah noticed something unexpected. Captain, look at the drone's pattern. They're not random. They move in clusters, almost like a formation, but each cluster repeats the same cycle. Marcus leaned over the console. Cycle repeat? That's it. They're predictable if you understand the rhythm. Their strategy is a heartbeat. Daniel's eyes widened. You mean we can anticipate their next move? Marcus nodded. Exactly. If we can exploit the rhythm, even briefly, we can slip past their cordon or strike back at a weak point. The Artemis began a series of precise maneuvers, weaving unpredictably yet following the rhythm Sarah had identified. The Deathworlders' drones adjusted, trying to counter each move, but the humans' improvisation added subtle variations they couldn't anticipate. A surge of hope flickered among the crew. For the first time, they felt they might outthink the Predators, if only for a moment. But the Deathworlders adapted quickly. Larger ships moved into blocking positions, forcing the humans into tighter spaces. The fleet strategy was layered, combining long-range observation, predictive maneuvers, and localized strikes. It was a chess game played at the speed of thought, and the humans were still several moves behind. Sarah's voice was tense. Captain, they're changing strategy. They're splitting into task groups. Some focus on the Artemis, others on the Erebus. They want to isolate us, keep us separated. Marcus ground his teeth. Then we combine strategy with chaos. Confuse them. Force mistakes. Every hunter makes mistakes when the prey is unpredictable. Daniels frowned. Chaos in a vacuum filled with alien ships? That's insane. Marcus' gaze was sharp. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Prepare the decoys. Their formation. Sarah quickly deployed a series of decoy drones, each mimicking the Artemis's energy signature. Simultaneously, the ship released concentrated energy flares in multiple directions. The Deathworlders' fleet hesitated, scanning multiple false targets. Now! Marcus shouted. The ship surged forward, engines roaring as the Artemis twisted into an unexpected vector. For a brief, exhilarating moment, the humans had the upper hand. But the Deathworlders were relentless. They had already adapted, redirecting their main forces to block escape. Smaller drones zipped around like predators, probing for weak points, harassing the hull with disruptive energy. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and the ship shook violently. Ensign Lee's voice quivered. Captain, they're everywhere. We can't escape. Marcus' jaw tightened. Then we fight differently. Not to destroy, but to survive. Use their strategy against them. Led them into hazards, into tight spots, into mistakes. Sarah's eyes widened. Captain, the asteroid field ahead, we could lure part of the fleet in there. Narrow corridors, debris. They can't maneuver as well as us. Marcus' lips pressed together. Exactly. That's our chance. We turn their strength into weakness. Prepare for evasive vector gamma 7. Target the narrow passage. All engines steady. Shields on maximum. The Artemis darted toward the asteroid field, twisting and turning to the jagged rocks. The Deathworlders followed cautiously, their massive ships slowed by the obstacles. Drones, however, were fast and aggressive, attacking from all sides. Daniels fired the ship's limited energy weapons, not to destroy, but to push drones into collisions with asteroids. Sparks and debris exploded in every direction, buying the humans a few precious seconds. Sarah shouted over the alarms. "Captain, small energies surge on the left flank. They're splitting to encircle us." Marcus slammed his fist on the console. "Then we split too. Use the decoys to mislead one flank while we slip through the other. Move." The Artemis twisted sharply, weaving through the field with astonishing precision. Drones collided with rocks or were drawn away by decoys. The humans' improvisation worked, but barely. The ship's hull groaned, panels cracked, sparks flying across the command room. Outside, the Deathworlders' fleet was momentarily disoriented. Their larger ships were too massive to maneuver quickly in the field. The humans had exploited the fleet's strength. Size, coordination, and intelligence became a liability in the confined space. Inside the command room, the crew gasped, relief and tension mixing. For a brief moment, the impossible seemed possible. They had survived another deadly maneuver. But Marcus knew it wasn't enough. Stay alert. That was only the first wave. They're learning. Every move we make, they adapt faster. The fleet has a plan, and we've just played into it. Sarah nodded. "Captain, I see the pattern. They're not just hunters. They're strategists. And this is only the beginning." Daniels exhaled, exhausted. "Then what will we do now?" Marcus' eyes hardened. "We survive. We adapt. We fight the game on our terms. That's all we can do. Every second counts. Every choice could be the difference between life and death." Outside, the Deathworlders' fleet realigned. Their formation shimmered with energy, like a living machine. They had analyzed the humans' improvisation, adjusted, and were preparing for the next phase. Inside the Artemis, the crew braced themselves. Their hearts pounded, hands shook, sweat dripping, yet determination burned in their eyes. The void was no longer empty. It had become a battlefield of strategy, adaptation, and survival. And for the humans, the fight had just entered its deadliest phase. The fleet strategy had revealed its depth, its intelligence, and its patience. And Captain Marcus Hale knew, with a grim certainty, that the next move, by either humans or aliens, would define who survived this encounter and who would be lost to the void forever. The Artemis twisted again, engines blazing, decoys deployed, shields flaring. The humans had survived another deadly test. But the Deathworlders were learning, and the true battle strategy was only beginning. The Artemis floated like a wounded bird in the endless void. Its hull bore the scars of countless encounters, small burns, cracked panels, and the telltale marks of alien energy strikes. Yet inside, the crew refused to give in. Captain Marcus Hale paced the command room, his mind working at lightning speed. Every creak, every flicker of light was a reminder that the Deathworlders were patient, intelligent, and relentless. Sarah Voss leaned over the sensor console, her brow furrowed. "Captain, I've been analyzing their formation, their energy pulses. There's a pattern, a rhythm to the fleet's movements. If we time it correctly, we might be able to exploit it." Marcus turned sharply, hope flickering in his eyes. "Explain." Sarah gestured to the display. They cycle their patrols in intervals. Drones sweep one sector, while larger ships guard another. There's a brief gap, less than 60 seconds, where one flank is less defended. It's risky, but it's a chance. Daniels, the tactical officer, looked skeptical. 60 seconds? That's barely enough time to react. One mistake and we're toast. Marcus's jaw tightened. Then we make that 60 seconds count. This is our moment. If we wait, we die. If we act, we survive. The crew worked swiftly, hearts pounding. Sarah adjusted the decoy drones to mimic the Artemis's energy signature in multiple locations, spreading confusion. Daniels recalculated thruster output to maximize agility during the maneuver. Even Ensign Lee, shaking but determined, readied auxiliary systems to boost shields at the critical moment. Captain, the Erebus, Sarah said quietly. "They're still broadcasting weak signals. I think they're trying to guide us through their sector. We might be able to coordinate a counterattack if we reach them." Marcus nodded. "Good. That's our target. We move as one, fast, precise, and unpredictable." The Artemis surged forward, weaving through the void like a shadow. For the first time since the SOS had been sent, hope glimmered. The humans were no longer just surviving, they were fighting back. Outside, the Deathworlders noticed a shift. Their drones adjusted, energy tendrils probing for weak points, scanning for anomalies. The larger ships moved to reinforce the flanks. But the humans' timing was precise. As predicted, the less defended sector appeared. A brief window opened, 60 seconds of opportunity. "Now!" Marcus shouted. The ship twisted sharply, thrusters roaring, as decoys flared in multiple directions. The Deathworlders reacted too slowly. The Artemis darted through the gap, narrowly avoiding collisions with drifting debris. Inside, the crew exhaled collectively, adrenaline surging. They had made it through the first phase of the counterattack. But the Deathworlders were far from defeated. They had learned from every move the humans made, adapting faster than any enemy the crew had faced before. A massive shadow appeared on the sensors, a larger ship moving to block the next sector. Daniels cursed. "They're predicting us again. We can't outrun that ship in open space." Marcus's gaze hardened. "Then we force them to react. We turn their strength into a weakness. Follow me on the override plan. But only small bursts. Make them think we're committing to an attack. Daniels, redirect power to thrusters and sudden surges. Lee, coordinate shield boost precisely with engine bursts." The crew acted in perfect unison. Outside, the Artemis shimmered with false energy signatures, flares, and rapid movements. The Deathworlders hesitated, analyzing multiple possible attacks, unsure which was real. Marcus gritted his teeth. "Good. Keep it up. Now, push forward toward the Artemis. We may have only one chance to synchronize with them." The freighter appeared on sensors, damaged but intact, smoke trailing from its hull. Its crew was desperate, waving weak energy signals. Marcus's voice softened, almost a whisper. "We're coming. Hold on." Sarah adjusted the communications array, trying to amplify the faint signal. "Captain, it's barely stable. If we time it wrong, we could lose them." Marcus nodded. "Then we don't time it wrong." The Artemis darted between asteroid fragments, twisting and spinning. Decoys flaring confused the Deathworlders. The freighter responded, activating its limited thrusters in an attempt to match the human speed. A sudden blast rocked the Artemis. One of the Deathworlders' drones had latched onto the hull, firing energy disruptors. Sparks flew, systems failed briefly, and alarms screamed. "Brace!" Marcus shouted. The crew held tight as the ship lurched violently. But then, Marcus pushed the override. Thrusters roared, shields flared, and the drone was flung off into the void. "Nice work," Marcus said, voice calm but intense. "We survived together, or not at all. Focus." Minutes passed like hours. The Artemis and the Erebus began moving in parallel, carefully navigating the Deathworlders' formation. The fleet adjusted, attempted to cut them off, but the humans' timing and improvisation kept them just ahead. Sarah gasped as she noticed a weak point. "Captain, one of their large ships isn't aligning properly with the drones. If we hit that sector, we could break through to open space." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "That's our chance. All power to engines. Shields ready. Decoys active. We make the run." The Artemis twisted sharply, the hull groaning under the strain. Energy pulses flared from decoys, blinding sensors and creating chaos. The Erebus followed closely, trusting the humans' lead. Outside, the Deathworlders reacted. Too late. Their larger ship attempted to intercept, but miscalculation caused drones to collide, minor explosions erupting among the fleet. Chaos, though brief, gave the humans the opening they needed. "Go! Now!" Marcus shouted. The Artemis and the Erebus surged forward, threading through gaps, dodging energy beams, and narrowly avoiding debris. For the first time in hours, the humans were ahead, moving toward open space, away from immediate danger. Inside, the crew felt a mixture of relief and adrenaline-fueled determination. They had survived, yes, but more importantly, they had fought back. For the first time, the Deathworlders were not fully in control. Daniels wiped sweat from his brow. "Captain, we did it. We're breaking through." Marcus's eyes were still sharp. "Not yet. We've survived the first part of the counterattack. But the fleet is learning. This is only the beginning. We have hope, but hope alone won't keep us alive." Sarah nodded. "Captain, I see the pattern forming for the next wave. If we stay together with the Erebus, coordinate maneuvers, and use the asteroids to cover, we can survive longer than they expect. But we need to act before they close the gap." Marcus's gaze hardened. "Then we prepare for the next move. Together, humans survive. That's the only rule." The void was quiet for a brief moment, but the crew knew it was temporary. The Deathworlders were intelligent, adaptive, and patient. They were not done learning, not done hunting. Yet for the first time, the humans felt a spark that had been missing since the SOS was sent. A spark of hope. They had turned the tide slightly, showing courage, ingenuity, and unity. Outside, the Deathworlders' fleet realigned, energy pulses flaring, but their formation showed cracks. The humans had exploited a rhythm, a weakness. The first wave of hope had emerged in the darkness. Marcus turned to crew. "Rest if you can. Prepare for what comes next. We've won a battle, but the war is far from over. Stay sharp. Stay alive. And remember, we are human. That alone gives us a chance the universe didn't expect." The Artemis and the Erebus floated together, battered but alive, threading through a narrow corridor of asteroids. Outside, the Deathworlders watched, their strategy adapting, calculating. But for now, the humans had survived. Hope had emerged in the darkness. Courage had prevailed against overwhelming odds. And the humans were ready to fight for every second of survival that remained. The void was no longer empty. It had become a place of daring, courage, and the first flicker of defiance against an enemy that seemed unstoppable. And for the crew of the Artemis, hope was the most dangerous and powerful weapon of all. The Artemis and the battered freighter Erebus moved through the void like shadows, threading through asteroid debris with precision born of desperation. For hours, the humans had survived attacks, dodged drones, and exploited the Deathworlders' patterns. Yet a quiet tension filled the command room. Hope had arrived, but so had danger in a far deadlier form. Captain Marcus Hale stared at the tactical display. The Deathworlders' fleet was reorganizing. The larger ships shifted into unpredictable positions, breaking rhythm, creating chaos that the humans had never anticipated. Sarah Voss's fingers flew over the controls. "Captain, they're not just predicting moves anymore. They're improvising. They've learned from us, faster than we can adapt. The next strike, it's coming from all directions." Marcus exhaled slowly. "Then we prepare for chaos. Everyone brace. This may be the moment we need sacrifice to survive." Lieutenant Daniels swallowed hard. "Sacrifice? Captain, you don't mean..." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Every life matters, but sometimes one choice can save many. We'll see if we have to make it." The first wave of the Deathworlders hit like a storm. Energy beams sliced through the void, small drones darting around the human ships like lightning. The hull of the Artemis shook violently, panels cracking, sparks flying. Crew members were thrown to the floor, gripping consoles as alarms screamed. Shields holding barely. Sarah shouted, "We can't take much more." Ensign Lee's eyes were wide with fear. "Captain, the Erebus, they're under attack. The freighter can't withstand this." Marcus clenched his fists. "We protect them. Any chance they have to survive, we give it." He tapped the communications console. "Erebus, follow our vector. Match speed. Don't stop." The freighter struggled, engine sputtering. The smaller human vessel was agile, but the Erebus's slower hull could not dodge drones or energy strikes as quickly. Marcus's mind raced for solutions. Daniels pointed at the tactical display. "Captain, if we draw part of their fleet into the debris field, we could give the freighter a path. But it's dangerous. We might not survive." Marcus's gaze was hard. "Then someone has to..." "Sarah, Prepare decoys to mislead the drones while we lure their forces into the field. Daniels, ready the emergency thrusters. Lee braced for sudden maneuvers. Decoys flared, energy pulses flickering like shadows, creating the illusion of multiple human ships. Drones and smaller Deathworlders ships followed the false signals, leaving the freighter with momentary window. Marcus's voice was calm but sharp. Hold steady. Keep the formation tight. We buy them time at any cost. The Artemis twisted sharply, weaving into a narrow gap among massive asteroids. The Deathworlders pursued, not realizing the humans had planned this trap. Drones collided with rocks, exploding into sparks and energy bursts. Larger ships hesitated, massive holes scraping asteroid edges. Then came the cost. One of the Artemis's engines flared too close to a drifting rock. Sparks exploded outward. Daniel shouted, "We're losing thrust on the left engine. If it fails completely, we're trapped." Marcus made the split-second decision. "I'll manually override the engine core. Lee, keep shield steady. Daniels, prep emergency eject if needed. Sarah, guide me through the energy pulse timing." The command room erupted in control chaos. Marcus moved to the engine console, overriding automated systems, rerouting power directly to stabilize the failing thruster. Sparks flew across the deck. The hum of machinery grew violent, shaking the ship violently. A sudden warning flashed across the screen. A Deathworlder drone was approaching, targeting the weakened section. Marcus didn't flinch. He held the override, rerouted power, and at the last moment, the drone collided with a decoy, exploding in a flash of light. Engine stabilized. Sarah shouted, relief flooding her voice. Daniels exhaled, sweat dripping down his face. "Captain, that was insane." Marcus wiped his brow. "We bought the freighter more time. That's all that matters." Outside, the freighter Erebus surged forward, engines roaring as the narrow corridor opened ahead. The Deathworlders struggled to maintain formation in the asteroid field. Chaos had been created, and humans had used it, but the cost was not over. Another massive Deathworlder ship surged forward, energy beams slicing across the void, targeting both human ships. The Artemis dodged violently, but panels exploded, small fires breaking out. Ensign Lee cried out, "Captain, the shields won't hold much longer." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Then we make the ultimate sacrifice. We draw them away from the freighter. Follow my lead." He activated the ship's remaining decoy systems, flaring false energy signals in all directions. "Drones and larger ships, focus here. Follow the Artemis, not the freighter." The human small vessel darted boldly into the line of fire. The Deathworlders, confused and enraged, pursued relentlessly. Energy beams struck close, rocking the ship violently. Alarms blared, and sparks rained down on the crew. Sarah's voice trembled. "Captain, this could destroy us." Marcus's gaze was unwavering. "We're buying life for others. That's what we do. Stay focused." The Artemis twisted sharply, exploiting gaps in the Deathworlders' formation. Every move was calculated chaos, enough to mislead the aliens, enough to protect the freighter, but perilously close to destruction. The freighter surged ahead, moving into relative safety. Marcus allowed himself a brief glance at its progress. "Go, get clear, survive." Then disaster struck. A massive energy beam hit the Artemis's central hull, knocking out several systems instantly. Sparks and smoke filled the command room. Crew members screamed and grabbed whatever they could. Marcus yelled, "Shields up, all power to emergency thrusters. Hold together." Sarah worked frantically at the console, rerouting energy, while Daniels manually fired countermeasures at incoming drones. Ensign Lee assisted, firing auxiliary pulses to divert attacks. The Artemis lurched violently, scraping past asteroids, but remained in the fight. The Deathworlders were relentless, sensing the humans' desperate gambit. Then came a moment of heroic clarity. Marcus looked at the control panel, seeing one final option, a high-risk energy pulse in the ship's core that could disable nearby Deathworlder drones temporarily. But using it would cripple the Artemis, possibly permanently. He made the decision instantly. "Do it. Now!" Sarah activated the core pulse. The Artemis shuddered violently as energy flared outward in a blinding wave. Drones and small ships in the immediate vicinity were temporarily disabled, crashing into asteroids or each other. The freighter surged further into open space. For the first time in hours, it had a chance to survive without immediate pursuit. The Artemis groaned, systems failing. The crew held on as the ship's core stabilized only barely, lights flickering, alarms screaming. Marcus looked at his crew, exhausted, battered, but alive. Daniels whispered, "Captain, we did it. We saved them." Marcus's eyes were hard, but pride and exhaustion mixed. For now, yes, but survival isn't guaranteed. Chaos bought us a chance, but the fleet is still out there, and they've learned. Sarah nodded. "Captain, hope is alive. The freighter has a chance. And we survived when none thought possible." Marcus exhaled slowly. "Hope is dangerous, but necessary. We fight, we survive, we adapt. That's what makes us human." Outside, the void remained dark, but now flickers of light showed hope. The freighter continued ahead, the Artemis battered but still moving, and the Deathworlders fleet, though formidable, had been forced to pause, reassessing human strategy. The crew had faced impossible odds, sacrificed safety, and endured chaos, but they had emerged alive. And for now, hope in the darkness burned brighter than the stars themselves. The void was no longer silent. It was alive with courage, chaos, and human defiance. And the humans had proven, against an enemy that seemed unstoppable, that survival was more than instinct. It was will, courage, and unity. The battle was far from over, but the Artemis and its crew had carved the first cracks in the Deathworlders' invincible facade, and that spark of hope, born of sacrifice and chaos, would guide them into the battles yet to come. The void had grown silent, almost expectant. The Artemis floated like a wounded predator, battered, scarred, but still alive. Its crew was exhausted, yet eyes burned with determination. Ahead lay the Deathworlders fleet, vast, black, and unyielding. After countless maneuvers, sacrifices, and chaos, the humans faced a stark reality. Survival depended on one final, desperate gambit. Captain Marcus Hale stood at the command chair, gripping the edges. The tactical display showed the fleet in a near-perfect formation, an unbroken wall of power. Every escape route had been mapped, every vector blocked. The freighter Erebus had escaped some immediate danger, but it was still within striking distance. The humans' chance was narrow, almost impossibly so. Sarah Voss whispered, voice tense, "Captain, they've adapted completely. Their pattern is gone. Every move we make, they anticipate instantly. There's no weak spot left unless—" Marcus' gaze sharpened. "Unless what?" Sarah hesitated, then pointed to the display. "Unless we make them act unpredictably. We can't outguess them, but we can force them into mistakes. It's risky, maybe the riskiest thing we've done yet." Daniels muttered, "Risky? Captain, this could end us all. We're already on the edge." Marcus' jaw tightened. "Then we either risk everything or die anyway. Humanity doesn't wait for odds. We create them." He turned to the crew. "This is it. Every calculation, thing we have, on one move. Follow my lead exactly. Survival depends on unity." Outside, the Deathworlders fleet shifted, sensing movement. Energy pulses flared, drones scanning, large ships adjusting positions. Their collective mind was precise, relentless, but Marcus knew it could be disrupted. The plan was simple in theory, terrifying in execution. The Artemis would split its energy signature completely, creating multiple phantom ships, while using its core energy reserves to overload localized sections of the fleet sensors. The goal was not to destroy. They had no weapons capable of killing a Deathworlder, but to create confusion long enough to break through the encirclement. Sarah's fingers flew over the console, activating decoys, rerouting energy, and preparing the core surge. "Captain, this is insane. If we miscalculate, the ship could blow. All of us could be lost." Marcus nodded. "Then we calculate perfectly. Or die trying. That's the difference between humans and predators. We act when logic fails." The Artemis surged forward, engines blazing. Decoy drones flared outward, each mimicking the human ship's energy signature. Small energy pulses ripple across the hull, overloading some of the Deathworlders' sensors. For a moment, the fleet paused, confused by multiple phantom ships darting in impossible directions. "Now!" Marcus shouted. The humans twisted sharply, diving toward the narrowest part of the asteroid field, the tight corridor that could conceal them from larger ships. Drones lunged after decoys, crashing into asteroids or colliding with each other. Energy beams flared, striking empty space. The Deathworlders' massive ship struggled to maintain formation in the jagged field. The humans had forced the Predators to improvise, the first sign of chaos within their collective mind. Daniel shouted, "Captain's working!" "They're reacting slower. We have a chance." Marcus didn't relax. "Not yet. We keep pushing. Every second counts." But then, the unexpected happened. One of the Deathworlders' command ships emitted a pulse of raw energy, a signal not meant to attack, but to recalibrate the fleet. The Artemis shuddered violently, systems failing briefly. Sparks flew across the command room. Sarah gasped, "Captain, they've adapted. They're recalibrating faster than we thought." Marcus slammed a hand on the console. "Then we accelerate the plan. Core surge now." The ship's central reactor flared violently, sending a pulse of energy outward. Decoys shimmered, phasing in and out of detection, while localized sense interference scrambled the Deathworlders' perception. The fleet hesitated, larger ships misaligned, drones colliding in confusion. The humans seized the fleeting opportunity. The Artemis twisted sharply through the asteroid field, the hull groaning under stress. Panels cracked, shields flickered, but the ship remained intact. The freighter Erebus followed closely, its engine straining to keep pace. Daniels yelled, "Captain, one misstep and we're done for." "The corridor is narrow." Marcus' voice was steady. "Trust the ship, trust the crew, trust humanity." The Artemis surged forward, narrowly avoiding collisions. Outside, debris flew past, drones exploded against asteroids, and the Deathworlders' fleet floundered for the first time. The humans had forced an opening, a thin, dangerous window, but an opening nonetheless. Then came the shocking twist. From the dark edge of the void, a second alien fleet appeared, smaller, faster, and more aggressive. Marcus froze for a heartbeat. Another fleet? Where did they come from? Sarah's eyes widened. "Captain, these aren't part of the main group. They're raiders, maybe scouts. They're faster, and their attack patterns are unpredictable." Marcus gritted his teeth. "Perfect. Then we use them." He realized a daring strategy. The smaller fleet could be baited into attacking the larger, structured fleet. Humans would create the illusion of vulnerability, drawing raiders into the Deathworlders' line. Chaos multiplied, confusion spread, and the perfect moment for escape could emerge. "Prepare the bait," Marcus shouted. Decoys at maximum output. Core pulses synchronized with thrusters. "Make ourselves look weak. Lure them in." The crew worked with desperate precision. Decoys flared, energy pulses danced across the Artemis, and the ship twisted as though fleeing. Sensors showed the raiders moving in, attracted by the apparent weakness. Then Marcus directed the next phase. Lead them into the center of the asteroid field, between the main fleet and the raiders. Timing is everything. Outside, the void became a storm of light and motion. Drones collided, ships adjusted, energy beams flared and chaos ruled. The humans' tiny vessel danced through confusion, weaving unpredictably, shields flaring with every near miss. The freighter followed, relying on the Artemis's maneuvers to avoid destruction. The Deathworlders' fleet, massive and powerful, struggled to coordinate under the new, chaotic pressure. For the first time, Marcus saw cracks in the seemingly invincible force. Sarah shouted, "Captain, we have a clear vector. If we push forward now, we can escape the immediate zone." Marcus nodded. "All power forward. Shields maximum. Engines to limit. We go now or never." The Artemis surged forward, twisting through a narrow opening in the asteroid field. The Deathworlders faltered, their ships too large to follow, drones colliding, smaller raiders trapped between them. Energy beams struck empty space as the humans exploited every second of confusion. Daniels cheered, adrenaline surging. We're clear. We're actually clearing them. Marcus didn't relax. Not yet. The freighter. Lee guided them through. Ensign Lee worked furiously, directing the Erebus along the safest path. The freighter dodged collisions, energy strikes, and drifting debris. The humans' gamble had worked, but just barely. As the Artemis and Erebus cleared the asteroid field, the Deathworlders regrouped. Their massive ships glared like dark sentinels, but the humans had gained the upper hand. Speed, unpredictability, and chaos had created space to breathe. Marcus allowed a small smile. We made it, not destroyed and not yet hunted. Sarah exhaled, relief flooding her voice. Captain, we survived. We actually survived. Daniels clapped Marcus on the shoulder. Captain, I can't believe it. Against impossible odds, we did it. Marcus looked out into the void, the human ship's battered but intact. Freedom stretching ahead. Not the end, but a victory. Chaos, courage, and unity, that's what survival looks like. And humanity will always fight, no matter the odds. Outside, the void was calm again, but the humans had left their mark. The Deathworlders had learned the hard truth. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and willing to gamble everything. And that spark, hope born of desperation and daring, would ripple through the stars. The Artemis and the Erebus drifted together, battered but alive, carrying a crew that had faced death, chaos, and impossible odds, and emerged victorious. The void had tested them. The Deathworlders had hunted them, and the darkness had threatened to swallow them whole. Yet humans had endured, survived, and struck back in ways the universe did not anticipate. Hope, chaos, courage, and unity. The final gambit had succeeded. For now,